I woke up on a concrete floor with my wrists chained to a metal bar, and I was 8 months pregnant with 3 babies I wasn't supposed to have. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because what happened next changed everything. My name is Amara, and 6 months before that morning, I was just trying to survive my senior year at State. I was pre-med, working 2 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night, and pretending I had it all together. I didn't. My scholarship covered tuition, but not food, not rent, not the textbooks that cost more than my entire month's groceries. So when I got the catering gig at the Whitmore Foundation Gala, I took it. $200 for one night. I needed it. That's where I met him, Daniel Whitmore. I didn't know who he was at first. I just knew he was different from the others. He didn't look through me the way rich people usually do. He asked me questions, real ones, about school, about my family, about what I wanted to do with my life. And when the event ended and I was hauling trash bags to the service exit, he was there, rolling up his sleeves, helping me. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know," he said, "but you shouldn't have to do it alone." 3 weeks later, we were seeing each other, not publicly. He said it was complicated. His family, his business, the media. I understood, or I told myself I did. Because when we were together, none of that mattered. He made me feel seen. He made me feel safe. He made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I could have something good in my life. And then I got pregnant. I found out on a Tuesday, 3 positive tests. I sat on the bathroom floor of my apartment and cried for an hour. Then I called him. He didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. I texted. I waited. 2 days later, he finally responded. "We need to talk." We met at a coffee shop 20 miles outside the city, somewhere no one would recognize him. He looked tired, older than I remembered. He ordered an espresso and didn't touch it. "I can't do this," he said. "Can't do what?" "This. Us. A baby." He ran his hands through his hair. "My family has expectations. There's a merger happening, a marriage arrangement. It's been planned for years. If this gets out, I couldn't breathe. "Daniel, I'm pregnant." "I know," his voice dropped. "And I'll take care of it, financially, whatever you need. But I can't be involved. I can't be a father, not right now." He slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check, $50,000. "I'm sorry," he said. "I really am." And then he left. I sat there for 20 minutes staring at that check. $50,000. More money than I'd ever seen. Enough to finish school. Enough to start over. Enough to erase him from my life. But I couldn't do it. Because 3 weeks later, I went to my first ultrasound, and the technician went quiet. She called in another doctor and another. And then they told me, triplets, 3 babies, 3 heartbeats, 3 tiny lives growing inside me. I was having triplets. The doctor said it was rare, especially spontaneous triplets. No fertility treatments, no family history, just a 1 in 10,000 chance. She said I was high risk, that I'd need constant monitoring, that I might not be able to work, that I'd probably need bed rest by the 3rd trimester. I nodded and smiled and thanked her, and then I went home and threw up for an hour. Because I couldn't afford this. I couldn't afford the medical bills, the time off work, the diapers and formula and cribs. I couldn't afford to be a mother to 1 baby, let alone 3. And Daniel had made it clear he wasn't coming back. So I kept going. I worked my catering shifts until I was too big to fit behind the tables. I picked up tutoring gigs online. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches and told myself it was temporary, that I'd figure it out, that I'd make it work. But my body had other plans. At 7 months, I started having contractions. The doctor put me on bed rest. No work, no standing for more than 10 minutes, no stress. I lasted 3 days before I went back to work. because rent was due, because my water was getting shut off, because I didn't have a choice. And that's when everything fell apart. I was working a private event in a mansion in the hills, some tech CEO's birthday party. I was refilling champagne glasses when the contractions started again. Harder this time, sharper. I tried to ignore them, tried to breathe through them, but then my water broke. Right there, in the middle of the marble foyer, in front of 200 guests. Someone called 911, someone else started shouting, and me? I just stood there, soaking wet, clutching my stomach, terrified that I was losing my babies. The ambulance came. They loaded me onto a stretcher, and as they were wheeling me out, I saw him. Daniel. He was standing near the entrance, talking to a woman in a red dress. His fiancée, I'd later learn. And when our eyes met, he looked away. He looked away. I gave birth that night. Emergency C-section. The babies were premature, but they were alive. 2 boys and a girl. Tiny and fragile and perfect. The nurses let me hold them for 5 minutes before they took them to the NICU. And then the bills started coming. $300,000. That's what the hospital wanted. For the surgery, for the NICU, for the week-long stay. I didn't have insurance, not the kind that covered this. I tried to negotiate, tried to set up a payment plan, but they wanted a deposit, $50,000 up front. I called Daniel. He didn't answer. I called again and again. I left voicemails. I sent emails. I begged him to help. Not for me, for the babies, for his children. He never responded. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went to the media. I reached out to a local reporter, told her my story, showed her the texts, the check, the ultrasound photos. She ran it, and within 24 hours, it was everywhere. Billionaire Heir abandons pregnant student and triplets. The backlash was immediate. Daniel's lawyers sent me a cease and desist. His family released a statement denying everything. They called me a liar, a gold digger. They said I was trying to extort them. And then things got worse. 2 weeks after the story broke, I was arrested. They said I'd violated a non-disclosure agreement, one I'd never signed. They said I'd stolen private information, that I'd harassed Daniel, that I'd made false claims about paternity. I tried to explain, tried to show them the truth, but no one listened. They took me to a detention facility. Not a jail exactly, more like a holding center. They said it was temporary, that they were processing my case, that I'd see a judge soon. But days turned into weeks, and I was still pregnant. Not with the triplets, they were safe in the NICU, but my body was still recovering. I was bleeding, I was in pain, I was losing weight, and no one seemed to care. I asked for medical attention. They gave me ibuprofen. I asked to call my lawyer. They said I'd get my phone call eventually. I asked about my babies. They told me to stop asking questions. And then one morning, I woke up and I couldn't move. My legs were numb. My vision was blurry. My chest felt like it was caving in. I tried to call for help, but my voice wouldn't work. I tried to sit up, but my body wouldn't respond. I was dying. I don't know how long I lay there. Minutes, hours. Time didn't make sense anymore. But eventually, someone noticed. A guard. She saw me on the floor, convulsing, choking on my own breath. She called for help. They carried me out on a stretcher. I remember voices, shouting, panic. I remember the fluorescent lights overhead, blinding and cold. I remember thinking about my babies, wondering if they were okay, wondering if they'd even remember me. And then I heard it. A voice. Low. Urgent. Those triplets are his. I was in and out of consciousness, but I heard it again. The genetic markers, the blood type, the ocular pattern. It's a match. Someone else responded. Does the family know? Not yet, but they will. I tried to open my eyes, tried to speak, But my body wouldn't cooperate. "We need to move her now." They transferred me to a hospital, a real one, with doctors who actually cared. They stabilized me, ran tests, treated the infection that had been spreading through my body for days, and then they told me what had happened. Postpartum complications, sepsis, organ failure. I'd been hours away from dying. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The most shocking part was the test results. The babies had a rare genetic condition, heterochromia iridum. It's a mutation that causes two different colored eyes, and it's hereditary, extremely hereditary. It only passes through specific bloodlines. Daniel's bloodline. His family had it, his father, his grandfather, every male Whitmore for the last 4 generations. It was documented, public record, and now all 3 of my babies had it. The doctors knew, and so did the people who'd been keeping me locked up. That's when everything changed. The guards disappeared. The charges were dropped. Suddenly, I had a lawyer, a good one, paid for by someone I'd never met, and within 48 hours, I was released. But I wasn't free, because Daniel's family knew the truth now, and they wanted my babies. The first offer came through the lawyer. $2 million, full custody. I'd sign away my rights, and they'd raise the triplets as Whitmores. I'd never see them again. I said no. The second offer was $5 million. I said no. The third offer came with a threat. "If you don't accept, we'll prove you're an unfit mother. We'll take them anyway, and you'll get nothing." I was still in the hospital when they served me the papers. A custody hearing, scheduled for 2 weeks out. They were coming for my children. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't afford a legal battle. I couldn't afford to fight them. They had money, power, influence, and I had nothing, except the truth. I contacted the reporter again, told her everything. The detention, the collapse, the genetic test, the threats. She ran it. And this time, people listened. Because this time, there was proof. The story exploded. Social media, national news. People were outraged. They demanded answers. They demanded accountability. And they demanded justice. And for the first time, I had leverage. Daniel's family tried to control the narrative. They released statements, offered settlements, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but the damage was done. And then Daniel himself showed up. I was in the NICU holding my daughter when he walked in. He looked different, tired, smaller, like the weight of everything had finally crushed him. "Can we talk?" he asked. I didn't answer. He sat down next to me, stared at the babies through the glass. I was wrong. About everything. I thought I could just walk away, pretend it didn't happen. But I can't. He turned to look at me. "They're mine, aren't they?" "Yes." He nodded. "I'm sorry. For all of it. For not being there, for letting them hurt you, for being a coward. Sorry doesn't fix this." "I know." He took a breath. "But I want to try. I want to be their father. I want to help. I want to make this right." I looked at him, really looked at him, and I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. He was afraid of his family, afraid of losing control, afraid of being a father. But he was here, and that had to count for something. "I'm not giving them up," I said. "Not to you, not to your family, not to anyone. I'm not asking you to." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. "I hired a lawyer, a good one. She's going to fight the custody case, and I'm going to testify on your behalf." I didn't know what to say. "They're going to hate me for this," he continued. "My family. They'll cut me off, disinherit me. But I don't care anymore. Because you were right. These are my children, and I should have been there from the beginning." The custody hearing was brutal. Daniel's family brought in experts, character witnesses, financial analysts. They painted me as unstable, irresponsible, dangerous. They showed photos of my apartment, my bank statements, my arrest record. But then Daniel took the stand, and he told the truth. He admitted everything: the relationship, the pregnancy, the money, the abandonment. He admitted that he'd been a coward, that he'd let his family manipulate him, that he'd failed me and his children. And then he said something I'll never forget. "Your Honor, I don't deserve to be a father, but Amara deserves to be a mother. She's fought for these children every single day. She's sacrificed everything, and I won't let my family take them from her." The judge was silent for a long moment, and then she ruled. Full custody to me, supervised visitation for Daniel, no custody for his family, and a court order requiring Daniel to pay child support and medical expenses. I won. We won. But it didn't feel like victory, because the babies were still in the NICU, still fighting, still fragile, and I was still terrified. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life. I lived at the hospital, slept in a chair next to their incubators, learned how to feed them through tubes, learned how to change diapers that were smaller than my hand, learned how to pray. Daniel came every day. At first, I didn't want him there, but slowly, over time, I started to see him differently, not as the man who abandoned me, but as a father trying to figure out how to love his children. He read to them, sang to them, held them when they cried, and little by little, he became the man I thought he was when we first met. The babies came home in December. 3 car seats, 3 cribs, 3 tiny humans who needed everything from me. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, terrified, but I wasn't alone. Daniel was there, not living with us, but there, helping, supporting, learning. His family never apologized, but they stayed away, and that was enough. The media moved on eventually, found new scandals, new stories, new outrage. But for me, the story wasn't over, because every day I wake up to 3 little faces who depend on me, 3 little lives who are here because I fought for them, 3 little miracles who taught me what it means to be strong. I'm still in school, still working, still struggling, but I'm not giving up, because they're worth it. Every sleepless night, every bill, every sacrifice, they're worth it. And when they're old enough to understand, I'll tell them the truth. I'll tell them about the man who walked away. And the man who came back. I'll tell them about the system that tried to break me, and the people who fought to save me. I'll tell them about the day I collapsed in chains, and the day I learned that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. Daniel and I aren't together. I don't know if we ever will be, but we're figuring it out. For them. Because they didn't ask to be born into this chaos. They didn't ask to be part of a scandal. They didn't ask for any of this. But they're here, and they're loved, and that's what matters. I look at them now, sleeping in their cribs, and I think about everything we've been through, everything we've survived, and I realize something. I'm not the same person I was a year ago. I'm not the scared girl who took a catering job to pay rent. I'm not the woman who thought she had to do everything alone. I'm a mother, and nothing will ever take that away from me. The reporters still call sometimes, wanting updates, wanting interviews, wanting to know how the billionaire's babies are doing. I don't answer, because this isn't their story anymore. It's ours, mine and my children's, and we're still writing it. One day at a time, one bottle at a time, one diaper at a time. It's not perfect. It's messy and hard and exhausting. But it's ours, and I wouldn't change it for anything. Sometimes, late at night, when the babies are finally asleep and the apartment is quiet, I think about that morning on the concrete floor. The chains, the pain, the fear. And I'm grateful, not for the suffering, but for the strength I found in it. Because that morning, I had nothing. No hope, no help, no future. And now I have everything that matters. I have my children. I have my dignity. I have my life back. And I have proof that sometimes the truth is louder than money, that sometimes love is stronger than power, that sometimes fighting back is the only option. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Daniel will stay involved. I don't know if his family will ever accept us. I don't know if I'll finish school or find a better job or figure out how to pay for 3 college educations. But I know this. I survived. We survived. And that's enough for now. The social worker comes by once a month, making sure the babies are okay, making sure I'm okay, making sure we're safe. And every time she looks around the tiny apartment with the secondhand cribs and the donated clothes and the stacks of bills on the counter, and she smiles. "You're doing good, Amara," she says. And I believe her, because my babies are healthy, they're growing, they're happy, and that's all that matters. Daniel's payments come every month, on time, in full, more than the court ordered. He wants to do more, he says, wants to set up trust funds, wants to make sure they're taken care of. I let him, not because I need his money, but because he needs to give it, because that's how he shows love. And I'm learning that love looks different for everyone. For me, it's 3 a.m. feedings and endless laundry and singing lullabies until my voice gives out. For him, it's showing up, being present, trying. And maybe that's enough. I named them after hope: Elijah, Isaiah, Grace, because that's what they gave me. Hope that things could get better. Hope that I could be more than my circumstances. Hope that fighting back was worth it. They're 6 months old now, starting to smile, starting to laugh, starting to recognize my face. And every time one of them looks at me with those mismatched eyes, one blue, one brown, just like their father, I'm reminded of everything we've overcome. The lies, the betrayal, the chains. And I'm reminded that we're still here, still breathing, still fighting, still alive. The story went viral again last month. Someone shared a photo of us at the grocery store, me exhausted with bags under my eyes and spit up on my shoulder, 3 babies strapped to my chest in a carrier. The caption said, "This is what strength looks like." And for once, I agreed. Because this is strength. Not the kind that comes from money or power or privilege, but the kind that comes from surviving, from refusing to give up, from choosing to fight even when the world tells you you're not worth it. And I want my children to know that. I want them to know that they were wanted, that they were loved, that I fought for them before they could even breathe on their own. I want them to know that their father tried, that he failed, but he came back, that he's learning how to be the man they deserve. And I want them to know that no matter what anyone says, no matter what headlines get written or rumors get spread, they are enough, just as they are. The nightmares still come sometimes. I wake up gasping, feeling the chains around my wrists, tasting the concrete dust in my mouth. I reach for my phone, pull up the baby monitor, and watch them sleep. 3 little chests rising and falling. 3 little lives that didn't exist a year ago. And I breathe, because they're safe, and so am I. Daniel brings his daughter by sometimes. Grace. She's the smallest, the quietest, the one who looks most like him. He holds her like she's made of glass, terrified he'll break her. And I watch him learn how to be gentle, how to be present, how to be a father. It's not forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever, but it's something. And for now, that's enough. I graduated last spring, walked across that stage with 3 babies in the audience and a degree I thought I'd never finish. The university tried to give me an award for perseverance, for overcoming adversity. I declined, because I didn't do this to be celebrated. I did it to survive. And survival isn't a trophy. It's a choice you make every single day. People ask me all the time if I regret it. Meeting Daniel, getting pregnant, fighting back. And the answer is always no. Because these 3 babies, they saved my life, not the other way around. They gave me a reason to keep going when I had nothing left. They gave me a reason to fight when fighting felt impossible. They gave me a reason to hope when hope felt foolish. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure they know that. The legal battle isn't over. Daniel's family is still trying to get involved, still filing motions, still trying to control the narrative. But I'm not afraid anymore, because I have something they don't: the truth. And the truth is louder than money. The truth is stronger than power. The truth is that I am their mother, and nothing will ever change that. So I keep going, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time. Because that's all any of us can do. We survive. We fight. We love. And we hope that somehow that's enough. I still think about that morning sometimes, waking up in chains, knowing I was dying, hearing those doctors whisper about my babies. And I realize now that it wasn't the worst moment of my life. It was the beginning of understanding my own strength, the beginning of demanding the respect I deserved, the beginning of building a life worth living. Not the life I planned, but the life I was given. And I'm grateful for it. Every messy, chaotic, exhausting moment. Tonight, like every night, I'll check the locks, feed the babies, collapse into bed, and wake up in 4 hours to do it all again. And I'll be tired and overwhelmed and probably covered in some bodily fluid I can't identify. But I'll also be alive, and so will they. And that's all that matters, because we survived the chains. We survived the lies. We survived the people who tried to take everything from us. And we're still here, still breathing, still fighting, still hoping, still loving. And that, more than anything else, is proof that sometimes the powerless win. I learned that morning something I'll never forget. Sometimes the only way forward is through the breaking.